All right. What's up, Internet peoples? I'm Matt. Welcome back to the Southern Motorworks channel. Today, we're out here with the old Swedish gentleman again. This is our 1974 Volvo 164E. Today, we're going to be starting on a project to give the old boy a little bit of sound, a little bit of attitude. All right, the exhaust on this one's got, multiple holes in it. It's just kind of old and rusted out. So, we're going to be running a brand new exhaust on it with a brand new muffler. And it's not going to be as quiet as it was before. Let's just put it that way. So, it's a chilly day here in the Panhandle. The wind's howling outside, so hopefully that doesn't mess with the sound quality too much. But what do you say we get a little sound check in from the factory muffler sound before we move on and chop that stuff up and make it much, much louder? All right, so y'all get the idea there. He's a little cold. Didn't want to fire up an idle too well there at first. It's I think it's down in the 30s right now, something like that. So cold start valve on this one could use a little work. So it runs excellent once it gets fired up, but initially for the first few minutes, he's a little stubborn. But anyway, so that's what it sounds like from the factory. Well, factory with some rust holes in the exhaust, but we're going to make it sound quite a bit different than that. So let's go on ahead and bring the supplies out here. We'll show y'all what we're going to be using for exhaust and for the muffler. All right, so the kit that we picked up here is just a universal exhaust kit. I think this one's from Volvo. So it's just a universal kit. Comes with two sticks that are I think 4 feet long. I think. Two 45s, two 90s, and two 180-degree turns. And so you just kind of, we'll split it open here and show you real quick. Opened it up last night to check it out, and then kind of taped it back together. Oh, let's just throw it up on the hood. So like I said, you get two of the 180s, you get two of the 90s, two of the 45s, and then two of the sticks. Mostly what we're going to use in this kit is probably going to be the sticks. And then what we're going to be using for the muffler is going to be, we taped this one back up too. Had this one laying around for a little bit. This is the same mufflers that I have on the ML430 out there. It's a nice chambered muffler. These are Cherry Bomb Extremes. And we really, really like the tone of these. This one's a dual in, dual out, 2.5 inch. Our exhaust is a 2 1/4 inch. So I've noticed, and I could be completely wrong on this, it could just be a coincidence, but I've noticed that when running like a 2 1/4 inch exhaust, if you up the muffler to about a 2.5 inch and then downsize back to your 2 1/4 inch, it seems to really, like I said, it could just be a complete coincidence. If any of you guys are exhaust experts and know why it seems to be this way, feel free to comment down in the comment section and let me know what's up. But all the vehicles that I've ran a muffler with a slightly larger exhaust or slightly larger inlet and outlet than the rest of the exhaust, they seem to just have one heck of a tone to them. I don't know, that's just me. Could just be personal preference or a complete, coincidence. I'm not sure, but like the 430, for instance, that's a 2 1/4 inch exhaust and a 2.5 inch muffler, same as this, and it sounds excellent. So we're going to be doing the same thing with this one. This has, I think, 2 inch exhaust on it from the factory. It could be 1 7/8, but either way, it's pretty small. So we're going to up that. We didn't want to go too big and go 2.5 inch all the way through, because I think it'll just be not enough back pressure with this. I know you don't need a ton of back pressure. You got to understand these old 164s don't have catalytic converters on them or nothing like that. So this is just going to be just the exhaust and, just the pipes and the muffler. So in order to maintain a little bit more back pressure, we're going to run a 2 1/4 inch exhaust. That should help us from losing any sort of low end torque. So we got to get a couple adapters. We are going to weld all this. We're not going to use clamps. Our little 125 flux over there should be able to weld this exhaust pipe with zero problems. But yeah, so that's going to be the setup there. 2¼ inch exhaust all the way back. I think we picked this kit up for like 60 bucks on Amazon. The muffler was like 30 bucks or something like that on Amazon. So we're into this exhaust kit for like less than 100 bucks. Probably be a little over once we buy the adapters that we need, but 100 bucks for an exhaust system ain't bad at all. So let's get this stuff set back off to the side for now. Let's get under there, start getting this original exhaust chopped off. Well, this freaking wind out here today, I'm gonna tell you what, it is that wind is something fierce. Got the collar up trying to protect the old neck from the wind, you know what I mean? But it is quite windy, quite windy. I think later on this coming year, after the spring, we're going to work on sealing up this garage a little bit better. It is a heck of a lot less wind in here than there would have been before we closed it off, but still got some room for improvement. All right, get the old boy opened up here. All right, so I think our best course of action here is probably going to be to get us a little bit extra room underneath. So let's get this thing jacked up on some jack stands. Most of the exhaust, like the entire exhaust, besides the very back side of it there, is all on the left-hand side. So that's why we got it hugged up against the driver's side over there. So we got plenty of room on this side. But because it's not a cross-flow head, so you got exhaust in intake manifold all on the passenger side here. So what we're going to be doing, our flange is like somewhere-ish down in here towards the backside, just past the firewall and whatnot. So we are going to be, we're going to be working on getting it off that flange here. I've got some other flange gaskets laying around here somewhere. I'll have to find them. We're going to replace that flange gasket also while we're under there. But what we're going to do is cut it off at the flange, and then we'll weld our new exhaust onto that flange there after we replace the gasket that's on it, because I'm pretty sure that flange gasket's leaking. Get a lot of exhaust smell from that area, so pretty sure that's what it is. But anyways, let's get this thing jacked up, get some a little bit more room to wiggle around under there. One at the front, one at the back, I reckon ought to be good enough. I can find a good spot. Keep the jack under there for safety. All right, that should give us plenty of room to get in and out of there. All right, grab some new blades from Lowe's there. We'll see how these Craftsman ones are. I ain't never used these before. All right, we'll try to get y'all as good of a view as we can here. Get our giant bright light here. Our flanges are way up there. I think we're gonna see where the curves are at. I don't want to try to weld onto the curves. See if I can try to cut it somewhere right in this area. Seems to be about the most accessible. Let's see here what's going to happen. That one is fighting us. Let me get the exhaust hanger off of here. We pull this exhaust hanger off right here so that we can get a little bit of separation on these to get that second pipe. I think that thing is barely even tight. Back to trying to cut this thing off there. I reckon. Loose on both sides. Yeah, there we go. All right, now let's take that exhaust clamp off the rest of the way. Most of it should drop right down. We'll leave that nut on there because I don't want to lose it. We'll probably reuse this exhaust clamp here. All right. I think we got another clamp somewhere in here. Where are you at? Well, this thing is just coming right off this old muffler. This muffler must have been replaced at some point because it doesn't look factory. Okay, let me use the jack. Maybe I can just lift up on it. Got some rubber exhaust bands here. That's what's holding it on back here. Let me get them. Get a little pry bar here. One side down. Yeah, see, it's these rubber exhaust bands there. And we'll see about cutting those things off of the factory exhaust here and reusing them. There we go. Just couldn't get my hand around it for a second there. That's the second one. Alright, where are we at that now? So it comes into two, into the muffler, and back out with one. Well, that seems restrictive. We're going to fix that. I think our last exhaust hangers are around the back side here. Yeah, let's get some light back here. Alright. So we've got some exhaust clamps here to try to take off. They're, I'm sure, going to fight us. They always do. It's these rubber isolated style ones. Let me get a PB blaster and a screwdriver. Alright. You get some PB blaster going on this stuff. I'm trying to remove them, but if I got to, I'll just cut them in half because we're probably not going to be reusing these anyways. There we go. There's one off. Let me resituate things, get to the other side, and take that other one off over there. Alright, so our last exhaust hanger looks to be right over here. So same thing as the other side, we'll hit it with some PB blaster here. Oh, okay. That one just slid right out. What is that? There's like one more aftermarket one over there. Yeah, that's just gonna get cut in half because I ain't dealing with it. We're gonna have to cut this in half anyways to get it over the axle. There we go. Alright. There we go. Alright. Let's get this stuff pulled out of here. Alright, so we got everything cut out. Let's get this stuff pulled out of there, I reckon. Whew, it is chilly today. I'll tell you what. Goodness. Problem down here, it's so dadgum humid. There's so much moisture in the air compared to up north. There we go. Had to do some wiggling. Alright, and that is the entirety of the factory exhaust system on a 74 Volvo 164E. Got one big muffler here that takes it from two down to one exhaust pipe, another muffler at the end. The two pipes go up underneath here, under the header. Whew, fought us a little bit, but it's off at least. Y'all know what that means. We gotta do it. We gotta do it. Anytime you cut the exhaust off a car, and you're going to redo it, you got to start it with open headers at least once just to hear what it sounds like. It's going to sound rowdy and probably kind of not that great, to be honest. You know, not every engine sounds great with straight pipes, but we got to know what it sounds like, right? So let's get after it. So yeah, like I said, not all that great. It just sounds super, I don't know. Yeah, you know, maybe if it had like some work done to it internally or whatever, but for a stock engine, straight pipes are not always the best way to go. It just, goodness, you know. It's like the guys in the squatted trucks, you know, with the bone stock LS motor and straight pipes on it. Just sounds like garbage. But anyways, it's going to sound a lot more toned and a lot better, you know, smooth sort of rumble whenever we get this exhaust done. So we're going to call it a night there. Got to go inside, cook some dinner. As y'all can see by my breath, it's pretty darn chilly out here in Florida. It's supposed to be near record lows for our area tonight. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. The biggest part's the wind. That wind will get you. All right, y'all stick tight. We'll be back home with a day job tomorrow. When we bring home our adapters, we can start moving forward with the rest of this exhaust system. Y'all stick tight. All right, so it's a new day. We're out here trying to stay warm. It's still pretty brisk today. I think it was like 20 degrees on the way to work. Pretty chilly for North Florida. Anyway, so I think today what we're going to do, got all the adapters that we're going to need for the exhaust, and we're going to be using some flame proof on it for the pipe that we're going to reuse from the underside of the exhaust manifold. We're going to use that, or we're going to reuse that. So I'm going to, whenever we get it off past the flange, we'll hit it with a wire wheel and hit it with some flame proof, and then we'll flame proof the rest of the exhaust also, and that will try to help it from rusting so much. This stuff works pretty good. So I think today what we're going to work on is trying to get that section of the exhaust past the flange. We're going to try to undo that flange there. I still got to find those gaskets somewhere. They are. I think we're going to work on trying to get that that flange undone so that we can get those two sections of pipe off, because that's what we're going to weld on to for the rest of the exhaust system. All right, I'm not sure. I don't even see if we're going to be able to see it just shit down there. Let me get the air cleaner off. That might give us a little more room to see. Just one over there. There it is. Set that over there. Wix filter. And of course, if y'all know, Wix is part of MON now. They've, I think it was last year or something like that. MON bought all of Wix and everything. So now your Wix filters, a lot of them are actually made in Germany. It's the exact same thing as a MON filter like that. Good German quality. All right, set that over there. All right, that's a little bit better. Right under there. That's where we're going to. 1 and 2. Yeah, right side by side there. That's what we're trying to undo. All right, so we'll hit that with hit them bolts with some PB blaster there real quick. That should help. Should help loosen things up, hopefully. That's going to smoke like crazy whenever we get it going again. We'll try to hit that with some brake parts cleaner, get it all off there. This car always throws me off because it's a Volvo, but half the stuff on it is standard sizes because they hadn't converted everything over to metric yet. Oh, yeah, right. Cool. Alright, well, we got the one off. Now we got a little bit more wiggle room on the other ones. Let's work on that one, I reckon. Goodness, son. Break. Oh, we broke that one, I reckon. That should be fun to figure out. Alright, so we got both those pieces off. This will be the slightly outside one, and then that one be the further inside one. So we got those two pieces off. But, unfortunately, where did it go now? But we broke one bolt. Yeah, so anyway, those, so the studs that are on there were super rusty. The bolts that were on there were super rusty. We managed to get 3 out of 4 off just fine with a little bit of work and back and forth and whatnot. But one of them, snapped clean off, just shear dried off. Luckily, though, it's one that we can go straight down onto the top of, on the back side of, I should say, through the intake manifold runners. Literally, if it would have been any one of the other ones, I don't think I would have been able to really get to it. But that one, we can actually get to. So we are going to attempt to drill into it, see if I can bring it out with an easy out or something, or, you know, twist it one way enough at least that I can get a pair of vice grips on it or something. We're gonna figure out what we can do. Worst comes to worst, we'll just drill the thing slap out, and I'll put a nut and a bolt through that side and not worry about a stud. So that may be what ends up happening anyways. So let's see what we can figure out. All right, so we're just going to be using we got a 1/4 inch drill bit there with our little bit extender here. Lock that in. That should reach us through the intake runner. Should work fine. So the one that we're dealing with, I don't know if y'all can see, it is right down in there. All right, so luckily it was that one that broke, and we can go straight down through in between this intake runner and the exhaust manifold pipe and get to it. It is that one on the left hand side. That one came out fine. Both of them on that one came out fine. That one right there is the one that broke. So we're going to try to drill it from the top down, see if we can get a hold of it. Get on it as straight as possible. Oh, I think my drill battery's dead. All right, so unfortunately, we were able to get that we were able to get the broken off bolt mostly drilled out of the exhaust flange there, but unfortunately, it was still the slivers of it that were stuck in the threads were like pretty much rust welded and heat welded, whatever, to the flange itself. So we tried knocking it loose. When we did, that brittle old cast iron just broke off. Eventually, we're going to just put a brand new set of headers on here. Might even weld some up ourselves or something, or if I can find somebody, if you guys know somebody, anybody watching this knows somebody that sells a decent set of B30 headers, you know, type it down in the comments and let me know. But for now, we're just going to be dealing with headers, everything down from the headers. So at some point, we'll replace those, get those old exhaust manifolds off, and put some nice headers on here, but that's for a future video. So for right now, where that ear broke off of that exhaust flange, we got just something whipped together here. It goes around. If you guys have ever seen these before, exhaust flange repair deals, we just had some scrap steel laying around, so I just whipped something together here. It's going to clamp, it's going to go around the exhaust tube, and then I welded a bolt in there. This will stick through the hole on the exhaust pipe. Where's that? So this will come off of our exhaust flange, go up above our exhaust flange. The broken ear will fit right in there, and then this will go. Got a nut on it right now, but then there goes my washer. This will go from the top down, clamp around the exhaust header, and then we'll run a nut up here. The nut on here, this side's still fine. Sandwich them both up in there, and it'll be good to go. Nice and tight still. All right, so like I said, we whipped that together just with a piece of scrap steel that we had laying around. It was actually from the previous project with the deer brush guard bumper collision protection on the front of the XC70. What we're going to do now is go ahead and start laying out our exhaust that we're going to need for the rest of the vehicle. It's going to be super simple. It's going to come down out of those pipes that we had there, go underneath the vehicle, and shoot out the side. So this exhaust, the whole exhaust is probably only going to be maybe 4 feet long. It's going to be super simple, easy to do. So let's get the old exhaust thrown over there out of the way, start laying out the new stuff. Yeah, that was I just found that on the ground. That was what was left of the screw that was stuck in there and broke off the ear. That was where it broke off. We tried to weld it, but it's just old brittle cast iron, and it's just not really wanting to work for me too well. Like I said, eventually we'll get a nice set of headers on here or something. It's to match everything else. But that'll probably come in a future video when we do some improvements on the intake manifold also, to try to squeeze a few extra Swedish moose power out of this Volvo here. Gonna have some weight reduction going on here too. These are obviously our initial pipes. Lean it up against the old Silver Steed over here. Auto exhaust silencer system. It's not gonna be silent. All right, so let's start out with the 245s here. Those are gonna fall. Oh, and before we can do that, we gotta grab our adapters. Yeah, we'll have to cut this off a little bit more flush, I reckon. It's kind of at a slight angle here. A coupler, we need to cut that in half. So anyways, these are gonna be just like this. So those are gonna be like that. Probably what we'll end up doing here, putting those back in the vehicle just to hold them there so we get our angles right and stuff. But anyways, let's get this stuff laid out. All right, I think I'm gonna bolt the flange pieces back in just so that I can get the angles right and see if we're going to need that 45 or if we need to maybe cut it a little bit and have it not quite be a 45, like a 35-degree angle, something like that. We've also got those big 180-degree bends in there. We got the 90-degree bends. We'll make something work here. So let me get those bolted in real quick. We'll check our angles, see what it's going to look like. Okay, so we got those bolted down in there pretty good. Enough to hold it still anyway while we work. As you can see, what we're dealing with, got our two pipes lined back up right down there. We're going to need a little bit of an angle, definitely not a 45, but if we're coming down at this sort of angle, we got to level it out some. Otherwise, we're going to be going straight into the ground. So, all right, now this is just the 45. We don't have our adapters on here yet, so it's going to make the length come down a little bit, actually. Stick one of those on there real quick. That gives us a better example. Yeah, see, we're going to be kicked way up in here. We don't need this one to be 45. We need less than 45, essentially. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and weld our adapters onto these. We'll get those tack welded, then we'll put it back in here, and then we can base everything else off of those. Let's do that. All right, so we're gonna let them sit there and cool down, and then we will come back out, remount those, and then we can finally start getting our angles right for the rest of the pipes to go underneath. I think we need like a 35, not a 45. So now we can go ahead and hang them back in the vehicle. Actually, before we do that, we're gonna go on ahead and make some pie cuts on our 45s. So we're gonna take these here and just cut a notch out like that so that we can relax this angle a little bit, because we need it to be kind of more this sort of angle instead of a 45. We need it to be down here like this. So let's get those cuts done, then we can adjust this, hang it back in there and adjust this to the angle that we need. Now, let's bolt that stuff back up in there and check our angles. All right, so as you can see, we got those hung back up in there. Now we can go ahead and start setting our 45s in there. Trying to see what these angles are gonna look like. We got the first one there. I think we need to go a hair more on that one. And our second one, probably the same deal. Yep, just a little bit further. Yep, we need to notch out a little bit further. So let's go do that real quick. All right, so we got those notched a little further. Let's see. I don't know if y'all can see. Yeah, that looks about perfect right there. Yep. Once we weld it, kind of do a little bit of hammering in shape there. That should be about perfect. All right, so let's go tack weld these into place. Then we can slip them up in there and move on to the next step. So we got them tack welded there. Make sure our angles didn't move around at all. Looks good there. And looks good there. Awesome. And we got a little bit of, we got some gaps in there we got to fill in, but it'll be all right. We shall make it work. All right, I'm gonna kind of move the welder back a little bit because I don't want splatter getting on the lens. That would not be good. All right, so let's get our the long sticks in there. Start trying to see where those are gonna land. That's our tack welds on that, by the way. So we got our two 45s coming down out of there. Stick these up in there. They're probably gonna sag a little bit right now because we don't have the flanges 100% tight up top. Okay. Our second pipe there. Factory exhaust hanger there, which is awesome. Bolt might not be long enough because our exhaust pipes are bigger than the factory. We might be able to get a few bites on there at least. Yeah. Cool. Alright, so throw a couple small tack welds on this one. Oh, let me get the camera out of there. I don't know what I'm thinking. Alright, so we got those sufficiently tack welded. Running all the way down to here. We are just a little bit off from about halfway up the back door right now. So let me grab some other sticks here. We'll see where this is going to land. All right, so here's where we're at. So we've got our we've got our muffler there. We're going to be probably having a trim, I don't know, maybe 8 inches or so off of the end of the sticks that we just tacked onto there. Then we're going to use part of our 90s that we have right there. We're going to cut those probably kind of down the middle and kind of direct them, use them as almost 45s, right? So then what I'm going to do is these 180s that we got, I'm going to cut the straight portions off of both of those. That'll give us 4 straight portions. I'll weld those into 2 portions, and that will, then we can tack weld those onto the 45. That should direct us at an angle right out in front of the back tire here. Yeah, I think. Okay, so let's get those cut up. We'll tack weld the 4 portions together, and then that'll give us an idea of where we need to cut off the 4-foot sticks in order to make our muffler in the right position to make the tailpipes come out at the right spot on the side. Yeah, so let me do that real quick. We'll check back in. All right, so let me get those tack welded back together, and we'll check back in real quick. All right, so we got those 2 tack welded into 16-inch sticks. So now let's go start trying to piece it together under the vehicle, see where we're going to need to cut those 4-foot sticks off in order to start tack welding the muffler in. All right, so we know we're going to want these to come out, you know, somewhere in this vicinity like that, maybe further forward. Yes, we're going to want them to come out somewhere like that. Need to stick a jack stand underneath these, something to hold them still, so I can start figuring on the distances and whatnot. There. Let me go cut this at an angle, and we'll see where that gets us. I like that angle a lot. So we got that one tack welded, right? So we're gonna come off of the muffler with this and stick out the card at an angle like that. In theory. We'll see. let's fit some stuff up, see what it's gonna look like attached to the muffler. I reckon we'll have to start tack welding. We went ahead and tack welded the adapter onto there also, so now we just need to tack weld this onto the muffler. So, but we got to see where we're going to need to cut these sticks real quick. So let's set this up underneath there, see where we're going to be at. So we got some extra meat welded onto that one there. The other adapter over there. So now it should be about the perfect size. Yep. Look at that. And then we're probably going to have to tack on some extra on these, so I'm not necessarily set on the length of these right now. We're probably going to have to add a few inches to it to get it out to the edge, so I'm not really worried about that right now. What I'm mostly worried about is this section right here. So the end of this widened portion here meets up with the beginning of this one, so that's exactly what I was looking for, to try to keep things right about this distance apart. I think we are just about ready to go on ahead and start trying to weld some of the adapters onto our muffler. All right, so there's our finished product for now. So now these are going to go onto the two sticks that we have coming down the side of the car, and then this will come out the side in front of the back tire. So now we got to tote this over there, and I know it's all tack welded into place. Tote this over there and see where we need to cut off those two sticks, because obviously they're going to be way too long right now. All right, our angles ain't perfect on here, so we got some tweakage to do on it for sure. But for now, this will get us. Oh, there's a cat underneath there. You gonna have to go, fuzzball. Yeah, don't look at me in that tone of voice. I want these to come out right in there. The old go fast tubes coming out the side there. Nice. All right, I think that is gonna work perfect right there. And we gotta cut quite a bit off of these sticks, which is perfectly fine. Actually, I'm looking at it, right where we welded them sticks on, we might not even need them. Yeah, look, that's where our sticks are right there, starting. We may just eliminate them, bring them straight out the side right there. Let's try that, and then that'll give us plenty of wiggle room on the other end here. If we need to adjust the angle to come out a little further back, we can. Let's do that. So let me pull those back off, and we'll cut the main sticks off and tack weld the muffler straight to the pipes coming down off of the engine. See what it looks like. All right, so we got our pipes coming down from the engine cut off. So they just come down right into there where we plugged in our sticks last time. So now we're gonna go on ahead and try to weld in the muffler into that portion, this section right in here. We're going to weld that in, and then it'll come straight on back and right out the side. So let me get that tack welded in there real quick. Now ideally, we'll still be able to use our exhaust hanger there, but we'll see what happens. All right, so a little change of plans there. We actually ended up needing a small section of the sticks, I think about 8 inches. So we got those cut in there. We had to make a little S-curve in this one, because these pipes were much closer together than the outlets, or inlets rather, on the muffler. So we cut a little S-curve into that one. We'll get that all welded up. It comes down to here, and it's going to be a little low coming out the side, so we're going to adjust the angle on these pipes somewhere here to kind of tilt it up a little bit. Probably back here, to be honest. Yeah, let's do that next. Get this angle adjusted so that we can get this stuff tilted back up against the body here. So we got those cut off there and twisted so that it's got a better angle on it. So we're coming out of the engine there. We got our muffler, and then we got our exhaust pipes here that come out at an angle, and then we got them cut loose now so that we could rotate them like this and tilt the angle back up to make up for that being a little bit lower down there. A little bit lower than what I wanted it to be, but I think it'll be just fine. So that's all good. So we got these big extensions on there just to try to see where our exhaust pipes were going to land. This isn't the, we're not doing the big Japanese craze with the giant exhaust pipe out the back. Don't worry. All right, so now that we got those pipes where we want them to be, we can tack weld underneath there to where they're kind of, you know, pretty permanent in that position for right now. We'll cut these off where we need them to be, obviously. Maybe get some nice tips later on or something like that. But for right now, we'll just cut them off flush with the body line. So yeah, so let's get that tack welded in, and then those will be ready to go. All right, now while I'm at it here, I'm going to go ahead, we'll mark our extensions here where we want to cut them. Let me go cut these real quick, and we'll be right back. All right, so we got our slash cut exhaust tips here. So the longer one should go on the back side, shorter on the front. Tack weld these into place real quick. Once we make sure they're nice and level. All right, I think we are good to go. We might trim those down a little bit more, but once we, well, it came down a little bit once I pulled the jack out of it because it doesn't have an exhaust hanger or nothing in it. So once it's got an exhaust hanger in it, it'll be a little bit further back too. We'll wait till we get the exhaust hanger on it and everything before we make final judgment on if we need to cut it down some any. That is what it's going to look like there. Quite the look on an old classic Volvo. All right, I think we're going to call it a night there. So everything's pretty much completely tack welded into place and mocked up. We just need to drop it out of there off of the exhaust flanges again and go ahead and finish weld everything, and then we'll paint it and whatnot. So we'll do that tomorrow when we get home from the day job. That's going to do it for tonight though. We're going to call it there, and we will see y'all tomorrow after the day job. Y'all stick tight. All right, so it's the following day. We're back out here with the old 164. So today we're going to work on finish welding. So that means we got to get it pulled out of the vehicle down here on the ground so that we can weld this thing up completely. I should really build a welding table so I don't have to kneel down for this all the time. Maybe in a future video. But for now, let's get this pulled back off the vehicle, get it down here on the ground, and we'll start 360 degrees. Finish welding everything here. We're almost out of 035 wire in the welder. We're going to finish off the 035 spool that I got in there, and then we will switch off to some 030 that I picked up. So both of them you can weld exhaust pipe with. You just got to fiddle with the settings a little bit between the two. So anyway, let's get this popped out, and then we'll get after the welding. All right, so we got the exhaust all taken off the vehicle, and there is the entirety of our exhaust system coming from the flanges way up there down to our muffler out the side. All right, so the rest of this is pretty much just going to be me welding. So we're going to set the camera up and cue the music montage. You know what I'm saying? Let's get this done. So it's following day. We got all of this finish welded last night. It was a bunch of welding. So now we're just going to hit it with a flap disc and a grinder and whatnot, get it cleaned up, check for any spots that we might have missed. There's a bunch of different angles in there, kind of hard to get to sometimes. So we're going to hit it with a flap disc, clean it up a little bit, make sure we got it 100% sealed on all the joints, and then we will check back in when it's ready to be painted. All right, so we got it all ground down pretty good, cleaned up pretty good. Did a couple touch-up welds and whatnot, so now we're just gonna go on ahead and hit it with some high heat. We got some like 2000 degree header paint we're gonna hit it with. We're just gonna paint all the silver black. We'll leave most of the muffler there red, because why not? It's cherry bomb. But we're just gonna go ahead and hit the rest of it with black, and then we'll check back in when it's dry. All right, so we're gonna let that sit there and dry. While we're letting that dry, we're gonna finish up making a bracket, or a hanger, I should say, underneath the vehicle. All right, so there's the finished product there. Turned out pretty darn good. All right, so let's go on ahead and get it put over there in the vehicle. We modified. Let's go ahead and get it put over there in the vehicle. We modified one of our original exhaust hangers to work, and then we've got to finish fabricating another one. We're just going to use a piece of steel rod, weld it to the underside of the vehicle, and then to the exhaust. That'll be perfectly fine. We've got new exhaust flange gaskets also to be able to seal up. If y'all remember, I'm pretty sure I said in the beginning of the video, we're pretty sure that one was leaking. One of those was leaking, putting exhaust fumes into the cabin area to begin with, but the new gasket should fix that. So let's get this brought down, put over there in the vehicle. Almost finished. All right, so we got this painted nice and good, but we will inevitably, I'm sure, end up with some scratches on it and whatnot from trying to install it. So it is what it is. It happens. You know, ain't really no way to avoid it. We'll lay it in this cardboard there to try to keep it from getting too awful bad, but we'll just have to touch it up, if nothing else, after we get it installed. All right, so like I said, we're using some brand new exhaust flange gaskets there. These are, what size was it? 1 13/16, I think. There's your part number there, in case anybody needs it for anything. These are the factory size, near as I can tell, for these old 164s with B30 motor in them. So this should seal up a heck of a lot better than those old crusty ones that were on there. That's for sure. Now if I can get it lined up, get that other one put on there. And these are the same front and back. There's no top and bottom to them. All right, there you go under there. You can kind of see them there. So we kind of got them started pretty good. Now we'll cut forward because there's really no way to get a socket on there unless I lay underneath the vehicle, and I really don't feel like doing that. So we're just going to tighten it all up by hand. So we'll skip forward. All right, so we got those 4 bolts all tightened up, or 4 nuts rather, all tightened up on there. So let's move down, finish putting our next exhaust hanger on down there, and we'll be just about ready to go. Yeah, it's under there. So we've got our modified exhaust hanger here from the original one. We cut a piece out of it, added that so to reach up in there further around the bigger exhaust pipes, added some wings on them to help it grab better. We've got these just about right where we want them. There we go. Perfect, okay. Now, we're just using a rod like this. We're gonna weld it to the vehicle and then up under the exhaust pipe. So we'll have to touch up the paint a little bit, but it'll be all right. All right, So we're going to let that dry down there. Now that's completely finished. While we're letting that dry, we're going to go ahead and put the air cleaner back on, and air filter and whatnot, get this engine ready to fire back up. Okay, that's nice and tight. All right, everything's put back together on there. I think we are good to go to try to fire this thing up. Let's get it down off the jack stand first, and then we'll try to fire it up. And I'm sure he's going to be a little cold. It's been setting for, you know, a week or so now, so sure he'll be a little cold. Let's go get the keys, get it off the jack stands, see what he's going to sound like. Okay, so truth be told, it's a little bit louder than what I anticipated. Was not anticipating the old red block to be that rowdy with just, you know, a chambered muffler on it. Other than that, I mean, it's the exact same thing. You see, this is pre-catalytic converters and all that. So, I mean, the original exhaust over there was just 2 mufflers. Those must have been some pretty restrictive mufflers, because goodness, you cut him down to 1 muffler and some side pipes, and this thing wakes up, man. I'm gonna tell you what. Whoo, goodness. I mean, it's gonna be louder in here. We're inside an enclosed garage anyway, but goodness. We'll see what it's like at idle, you know, or cruising speed. I think it'll be a little bit more bearable at cruising speed. But we're out of daylight, unfortunately. Took longer than expected to get everything done today. So tomorrow when we get home from the day job, we'll take him for a nice kind of sunset riff up and down the neighborhood, and you know, let the old red block breathe out there, so to speak. So y'all stick tight, we'll be right back. Got a little lope to him over there. Quite a bit louder than I anticipated. Sounds good though. All right, we're gonna let him warm up a second. Then we'll take him for a rip down the road. All right, I think we got him just about warmed up here. Maybe not 100% warmed up yet, but it's getting there. It's definitely quieter in the cabin area, but goodness, that thing is loud. That is a rowdy red block, I'm gonna tell you what. I did not anticipate, most of the stuff I work on's got catalytic converters on it, and so as long as you leave the catalytic converters on there, you can swap mufflers and stuff, and you know, you get a good sound, but not like anything crazy loud. But goodness, I'm gonna tell you what, those 2 big mufflers, because this is pre-catalytic converter era, those 2 big mufflers that were on there were putting in some work keeping this thing quiet. And that, now we're just deleting those mufflers and going into 1 chambered muffler and out the side pipes. This thing is loud. we'll come back home, get a couple flyby shots in before the sun sets completely. Oh, here we go. It's so loud. That sound does not get old though. God, that thing sounds rowdy. It sounds so, it's loud, but man, it sounds good. I'm gonna tell you what. You know, the guy on the bike was like just shaking his head when we drove past. Just in disgust at the old Swedish gentleman here. Alright, we go shut that off so you guys can actually hear me. Whew. Okay, so as y'all can see, it actually turned out to be a little bit louder than what I had first, initially anticipated. But I think it sounds pretty darn good. I'm gonna tell you what, when that thing hits the power band up around 2,500 to 3,500 RPMs, or even a little bit past that, well, that straight six, that old red block just starts with singing, man. I'm gonna tell you what. But it is quite loud. So I think it'll be fine once we're cruising, windows are down and stuff like that come the summer. It's just everything's enclosed right now because it's cold. So, but I think it sounds really good. I'm super happy with the exhaust, man. I love a good throaty exhaust like that. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's gonna do it for this episode. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us while we, make the old Swedish gentleman here just a little bit rowdier than before. Okay, maybe a lot a bit rowdier than before, but but I appreciate y'all hanging out with us. And if you enjoy this sort of content, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see the goings on here at Southern Motorworks. We got plenty more to go. Got more stuff with the old Volvo wagon over there. Got plenty more to go with these three project cars. And we still got another special one coming this summer. Not to mention the motorcycle coming this spring. Can't wait for that one. And old German toe over there still got some more. We got all kind of stuff going on. So make sure y'all hit that bell over there so that you can get alerts whenever we post new videos and shorts and lives and all sorts of stuff. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. I think next week we're going to be back with either the E12 BMW project or the C230 project. I'm not quite sure just yet, but it's going to be one of those two most likely. So yeah, we'll flip a coin and see which one we're going to do next. So y'all keep an eye out for those videos posting here in the near future, and I will catch y'all on our next one. All right, y'all have a good one out there.